Now, it may come as a surprise to learn that there are no functioning revolving restaurants at all in the United Kingdom. I know, hard to believe. I can hear the gasps of incredulity already. But if you're one of the handful of people who have ever thought that, well, surely there must be a restaurant at the top of the BT Tower in London, well, you're half right. There is a restaurant there, but you can't go to it. Why not? Well, if you have a couple of minutes, I'll explain. The BT Tower, or the Post Office Tower as it was known, is one of London's most visible and iconic landmarks. This seemingly top-heavy 1960s brutalist tower can be seen from all over London. Love it or hate it, when you're in London you just can't miss it. Constructed between 1961 and 1964 for the ludicrously modest sum of just £2.5 million, and standing at 189 metres, it was the tallest building in London. The tower was built primarily as a communications tower, providing a line of sight for the microwave antennas as far afield as Norwich and Southampton. It was a Cold War communications hub, but, being the swinging 60s in a high-trust society, it also had 6 floors fully open to the public, comprising of viewing galleries, a swanky cocktail bar, and a revolving restaurant. The restaurant, the top of the tower, was a great success. Run by British holiday camp magnate Billy Butlin, the futuristic revolving restaurant had served over 100,000 diners in the first year alone. And this wasn't a kind of egg and chips and a cup of tea type venue, it was a proper 5-star attraction. Famous faces like Muhammad Ali, Mick Jagger and British carry-on actor Kenneth Williams were just some of the celebrities spotted eating or drinking at the top of the tower. To members of the 1960s British public, it must have seemed like the promised shiny future had arrived early. Whisked to the top by super-fast elevators, the steel and glass restaurant gave a 360-degree view of London, totally unlike anything else that existed at the time. Patrons were visibly moved. I looked out and gasped. Now, it was the place to go to back then, totally awe-inspiring. It was breathtaking, you moved all the time. But unfortunately, the good times were not to last. On October the 31st at 4:30 in the morning, a bomb went off at the top of the tower. Now, we don't have many details of exactly what happened. What is known is that the device was left inside the men's lavatory, probably on one of the lower gallery floors. When it exploded, it blew out about a third of the perimeter wall of the lower gallery and caused significant damage to the floors above. As it was 4:30 in the morning, there were very few people about, and although steel and glass debris was scattered across rooftops and nearby streets, thankfully nobody was killed or injured. The damage to the structural integrity of the tower was minimal. Most of the force of the blast had vented outwards, causing a lot of superficial damage, but the structure was intact. Nonetheless, there were pieces of steel and glass still attached to the lower floor, dangling out in the open and, with the wind picking up, in danger of falling onto anyone who happened to be below. When local firemen balked at the task of removing this debris, 45-year-old Ben Watts, who was working for Coventry Scaffolding, volunteered to descend in a makeshift cradle. With a borrowed hacksaw, he spent 5 hours swinging around in the high winds to remove this potential danger, and that must have been a white-knuckle work shift if ever there was one. For his efforts, Ben Watts was awarded the British Empire Medal. Over the next few months, the walls were rebuilt and the glass was replaced, but the damage was done. The restaurant never opened to the public again. Butlins had the lease until 1980, but as far as I know, the general public never got the chance to eat out at the top of the tower. The restaurant was now accessible only by invitation, and it's kind of reserved for corporate functions and VIPs. It closed for good in 1980 when the lease expired. As for the culprits of the bombing, well, nobody was ever charged. 2 groups claimed responsibility, the terrorist group the Provisional IRA and the far-left anarchist group known as the Angry Brigade, but nobody was ever definitively tied to the bombing. But whoever it was succeeded in making the tower effectively off-limits to the general public for the last 55 years. And that is why, although there's still physically a restaurant at the top of the Post Office Tower, you can't go and eat there.